All right, welcome to this high-yield explainer. Today, we're stepping right into the clinic to tackle one of the absolute most critical diagnostic pathways in medicine, and that's evaluating a breast lump. When a patient presents with a breast abnormality, it really kicks off this high-stakes clinical mystery. Is it just a harmless cyst, or are we looking at a life-threatening malignancy? Systematically answering that question is, well, it's paramount.
To really anchor this masterclass in reality, I want you to consider this staggering global number. 2.3 million. There are more than 2.3 million cases of breast cancer diagnosed every single year worldwide. That makes it the most common form of cancer among men and women combined. In fact, in 95% of countries out there, it's the first or second leading cause of female cancer deaths. So getting our diagnostic process right isn't just about passing your exams, it is quite literally a matter of global population health. So here's our clinical pathway for today. We'll start with 1, the global burden, then 2, symptoms and exam, 3, the triple assessment, 4, benign conditions, and finally, 5, carcinoma staging and management.
Okay, let's jump into Section 1, the global burden.
The World Health Organization actually uses this unified 3-pillar global breast cancer initiative framework to really drive down mortality. Pillar 1 is the pre-diagnostic interval that focuses on health promotion and early detection. Pillar 2 is the diagnostic interval, ensuring timely, accurate diagnostics. And Pillar 3 represents the comprehensive treatment interval. Now, these aren't just isolated steps, they are intrinsically linked strategies. If one single pillar fails, the entire patient outcome is severely compromised.
Moving right along to Section 2, symptoms and exam.
When an individual notices an abnormality, what exactly are the initial clinical clues we need to look for? Visual signs include things like painless breast masses, skin thickening, redness, enlarged lymph nodes in the armpits, focal breast pain, or maybe progressive nipple discharge and inversion. Now, it is totally vital to remember here that most breast lumps are actually benign, and most symptoms are not caused by cancer. But as an astute clinician, you absolutely have to treat these signs as critical starting points for your diagnostic workup.
Frequently, patients are going to present not with a lump but with breast pain, and we need to unmask these causes. First off, always ask about timing. Cyclical mastalgia is premenstrual soreness, and that usually happens in the upper outer quadrants. If it's non-cyclical, look at the patient's demographics. Duct ectasia typically occurs in a woman's 5th decade, causing pain right behind the nipple, often with some discharge. A breast abscess or mastitis, well, that's usually linked to pregnancy or lactation. Fat necrosis often follows some sort of localized trauma. But here is exactly why we never ever dismiss pain. Up to 15% of breast lumps presenting with pain actually turn out to be carcinomas.
All right, Section 3, the triple assessment.
Everything we've talked about builds into the famous triple assessment. Step 1 is the clinical examination. So that's inspecting and palpating the breasts and lymph nodes. Step 2 is radiology. Now notice the strict age stratification here. For patients under 35, ultrasound is preferred, simply because young breast tissue is just way too dense for effective mammography. But for those over 35, we use mammography, and that's often combined with an ultrasound. Finally, step 3 is histology, or cytology, where we secure tissue through a fine needle aspirate or a core biopsy. You absolutely must complete all 3 of these steps to safely separate benign conditions from malignant ones.
I really want to issue a sobering clinical pearl here. Medical negligence is defined as an act of omission or commission deviating from standard care that causes harm. In breast diagnostics, failing to complete the full triple assessment for a suspicious mass is a fast track to medical negligence and malpraxis. You cannot simply feel a lump, assume it's just a benign cyst, and send the patient home. The entire pathway must be completed, no exceptions.
To emphasize the extreme vigilance required during Step 1 of that assessment, I want you to remember this absolute rule from Churchill's Pocketbook of Differential Diagnosis. It says, skin dimpling and nipple retraction indicate carcinoma until proved otherwise. When you observe these signs during your clinical exam, immediate alarm bells should be ringing in your head.
Let's pivot to Section 4, benign conditions.
Notice the stark physical contrast here between a benign mass and a malignant one. A fibroadenoma, which is very common in women under 30, presents as a smooth, rounded, painless mass that is highly mobile. Contrast this directly with a carcinoma. Those are typically found in postmenopausal women, and they present as a hard, irregular mass that actually feels tethered or fixed to the underlying deep tissue or the skin. It's a very different feel.
In fact, the fibroadenoma is so remarkably mobile that it has earned this classic medical moniker, the breast mouse.
It literally feels like it's darting about right under your examining fingers. Recognizing this characteristic feel is a great early clinical indicator, though, again, it still requires the rest of the triple assessment to fully confirm.
Beyond fibroadenomas, there are a few other common benign culprits that will frequently cross your path. In perimenopausal women over 35, you'll often see smooth, fluid-filled breast cysts. If the patient happens to be lactating, consider infective mastitis, which is typically a hot, painful Staph aureus infection. Around menopause, blocked ducts can lead to duct ectasia, and that presents with green or bloody discharge. Finally, always ask about recent injuries, because localized trauma can leave a firm, calcified lump known as fat necrosis.
Bringing us to Section 5, Carcinoma Staging and Management.
Time is completely of the essence here. The WHO has established vital target metrics for Pillar 2. That's the diagnostic interval. The goal is an urgent 60-day window from the very first clinical evaluation of an abnormality to the definitive pathological diagnosis. Delayed diagnosis directly correlates with disease progression, making this 60-day interval a seriously critical benchmark for health systems all over the globe.
Once diagnosed, we use the universally recognized TNM criteria to assess how far the cancer has spread. T stands for tumor size, and that ranges from T1, which is under 2 centimeters, all the way up to T4, where the tumor is actually fixed to the chest wall or causes peau d'orange, which is that pitted skin appearance. N assesses the nodes. Are the lymph nodes mobile, which is N1, or are they fixed, which is N2? Finally, M is for metastasis. Has the cancer spread to distant organs like the lungs, liver, or bones? Then, we translate those dense TNM variables into a highly practical 1 through 4 staging system. Stage 1 is highly localized and mobile. Stage 2 involves the local lymph nodes. Stage 3 shows advanced local spread, fixing right to the muscle with matted nodes. And by stage 4, unfortunately, the disease has completely fixed to the chest wall or metastasized distally. Accurately plotting a patient on this table essentially dictates their entire survival prognosis and treatment strategy.
And that leads us directly right into Pillar 3, the treatment interval. Combating confirmed carcinoma requires a really comprehensive multimodality approach. We're talking localized control through surgery and radiation, paired up with systemic anti-cancer medicines. But crucially, as the WHO highlights, this care absolutely must include psycho-oncologic and palliative support to ensure patients can actually complete their treatment regimens without abandonment.
So, the crucial takeaway is this. We are facing 2.3 million cases globally every single year. The World Health Organization's target is to catch at least 60% of those cases early at stage 1 or 2. How does that actually happen? Well, it happens through you. By maintaining a high index of suspicion, executing the triple assessment flawlessly without omitting a single step, and swiftly navigating the clinical pathway, you can literally shift the global staging statistics and save lives. Keep learning, stay vigilant, and absolutely never skip a step.